FIA confirm Red Bull cheated budget cap. What now? Social media and Mercedes have been doubtful of Red Bull this week for their likely exceeding budget cap in 2021. Even though there would be significant repercussions in the event of a violation, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority decided on Wednesday to hold the issuance of cost cap compliance certificates. The F1 teams have asked the FIA to take strong action against any suspected cheating, but Lewis Hamilton has made an even bigger demand. So, do you want to know what's going on with the current F1 controversy and what the consequences would be? The FIA has verified that Red Bull violated the cost cap restrictions for Formula 1 in 2021, when Max Verstappen won his maiden championship. However, the much-anticipated information from the regulatory body didn't specify the specific type or extent of the violation and said that the punishment is still being reviewed. Okay, but what does it even indicate, and what will happen after that? It's regrettable that the FIA has just verified what everyone already knew, that Red Bull breached the 2021 cost cap. The FIA is not disclosing information such as how much and what the penalty would be. However, the rhetoric used in its announcement tends to deny claims that Red Bull overspent in 2021 or that it was the focus of an inquiry. The controversial news broke in Singapore. The FIA issued a statement that seemed to criticize significant and unsubstantiated speculation and conjecture in regard to the matter. The FIA has now stated that all competitors acted at all times in a spirit of good faith and cooperation throughout the process, and that its review of each team's financial reports for 2021 was limited to reviewing the submissions made by the competitors, and that no full formal investigations. If that is the case, then Red Bull's expenditure overage from the previous year was not intentional, and no attempts were made to hide those costs, meaning an official inquiry would be necessary to know more. For that, the financial rules for F1 make provisions that include both aggravating and mitigating factors. One of the aggravating factors is any element of bad faith, dishonesty, willful concealment, or fraud. It's likely that Red Bull took the allegations of cost cap seriously, thinking they were indicative of some type of retaliation on its side. Now, according to a recent announcement, the FIA and F1's Cost Cap Administration regard this initial infraction differently from Red Bull's opponents, considering it nothing more than a simple technological error, and so any predetermined fury may have been overblown. Anyhow, putting aside the merits of the case at hand, everyone can't help but feel sorry and frustrated that the 2021 World Championship is far from being settled. As a matter of fact, this is more likely to ensure that it will be contested indefinitely than that Abu Dhabi restart. On top of that, there had been far too many incidents of dangerous driving, far too much harsh language between opposing club owners, far too many controversial calls by officials, and far too much aggressive polarization among fans. It was a relief to finally leave that season behind, but now we're right back in the middle of it, and no matter how severe the punishment, one side and the other side will undoubtedly be upset. As the FIA has confirmed that Red Bull Racing has violated a small overspending violation, is that the Cost Cap Administration is presently evaluating the proper course of action to be taken, which is the most important aspect. In such a case, openness and honesty regarding the breach and its financial impact are of the utmost importance. Nonetheless, the most important aspect of this procedure is keeping the cost cap in effect and preferably increasing its strength. Now is the time to establish a clear boundary for what will and will not be tolerated in the submissions. That means any areas where there might be ambiguity are tightened up, and any future breaches will have very serious penalties. As part of that, Red Bull should get a concrete punishment, which, in all likelihood, will not be retrospective action, but rather a decrease in aero and other tests, and possibly a temporary limitation in its future investment, along with something far more powerful, on a suspended basis. This, however, has nothing to do with Red Bull. F1's future, the team's long-term viability, and the pursuit of a more even playing field are all dependent on the cost cap, which is vital for F1. No matter what, the current activity is predicated on previous acts, but it must be done in the spirit of strengthening the future. As such, it was inevitable that this would be the first stress test for the cost cap. To ensure the long-term success of F1, a realistic but open strategy has to be implemented immediately. A misstep could have the opposite effect. On the other hand, Christian Horner has stated frequently that Red Bull didn't violate the F1 budget limit last season and is sure that the FIA would agree with him once the results of the probe are out. However, at the Singapore Grand Prix, reports surfaced that Red Bull and Aston Martin had spent more over the $145 million budget restriction during Max Verstappen's championship season, but Red Bull team head Christian Horner consistently denied the reports. Now, the FIA is currently reviewing all of the team's financial submissions. If any teams are found to be in violation of the rules, the FIA has the authority to impose penalties, which could alter the outcome of last year's championship, which was won by Verstappen by a razor's edge over Lewis Hamilton. In opposition, Toto Wolff, the head of the Mercedes team, said that it was an open secret in the paddock that the two teams had overspent the previous year, giving them an unfair material advantage. But on Sunday, Horner back again repeated his belief that the team didn't breach any regulation. Horner appeared unconcerned when questioned about his feelings over the FIA's decision. He said, "No, we're absolutely confident in our submission. Our audit was signed off by our auditors. We believe we are comfortably within the cap. Anyhow, the laws determine two types of budget cap breaches. Those of less than 5% are deemed minor, while those of more than 5% are regarded as major material breaches. As for the latter, the governing body may deduct points or even kick the offender out of the competition for their infraction." Now, the FIA Cost Cap Administration is evaluating the circumstances surrounding Aston Martin and Red Bull in light of the financial regulations and will provide updates in accordance with the regulations as soon as they have been finalized. But we don't know how much Red Bull went above the limit, whereas the first penalty of its kind in Formula One should hit the team hard. Someday soon, we can only hope that spending in vehicle development will be controlled. On top of that, Reddit users also shared their thoughts on the matter. These are certainly exciting times for fans, at least for those whose club has not violated the restrictions. Some people are just overjoyed by what is occurring and what it portends for the future, while others have their own sarcastic interpretations. It will be fascinating to see what happens with the penalty and what steps will Red Bull take to prevent one. And on the other hand, what do you think punishments should be?